I got to tell you what was funny too is when I did my interview with Inside Edition, they asked me, they're like, so are you going to watch this movie? And I flat out said, I said, no, I'm not going to watch a movie that didn't. Why would I support them when they didn't support me? And I think everybody in the room was kind of like shocked at my answer. I was like, no, I'm not watching it.
That's Hollywood's attitude now.
Renegade Online.
You know, that's the difference, I think, Lila, with you and a lot of the modern actors and whatnot out there. And I don't think it's an accident that you have the Trump hats and all that stuff behind you. I really don't, because the way you speak and the way you talk about yourself, and this is what I love about you, you're unapologetic. It's like, you don't have to make excuses for who you are or what you do or how you look and all this. I'm like, no, give me what I earn, and I will go out there and work my ass off to earn what I can, while you've got these other Hollywood actors out there that are either making excuses or they want to use some kind of phony sense of victim status to get this, that, or the other thing. Or in the case of Peter Dinklage, like you said earlier, kick the ladder out from under the feet of every other short actor out there. And you wind up with what you've got now with this complete travesty for Disney. And it is. We're looking at roughly, by my calculations right now, somewhere to the tune of about another $200 million loss for Snow White.
You know, and Rachel, she didn't want to share the spotlight, okay? Share the spotlight a little bit. We don't even take that much space up. You can't shine a little light on us?
No, she didn't come to anybody's defense but her own. And I think that's one of the things with Rachel that is a hallmark of, I think, her personality. And to some, not complete, but to some larger extent, unfortunately, of her generation, where everything is about me, everything is about myself, everything is about, you know, my fame. And, you know, she's got Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat and some Hollywood stuff like this. But when you really look at Rachel Zegler's track record in Hollywood, it ain't all that great. Now,
I think it's ended her career. I think she's going to Broadway, and that's where she'll stay.
Yeah.
Well, look, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, Rachel Zegler, to all the jokes we can make, and I've said this before, she does have her vocal chops. She does have the ability to sing in a classical voice because she's posted videos on it, and we've talked about them before. It was clear that the people that did the music, not for Disney, for this movie, for Snow White, just were not interested in that. They were interested in taking this into a modern Broadway frenzy, which did not fit the story at all. It didn't fit the timepiece at all. And of course, the movie itself was just an abomination of writing. And I think even Jonas Campbell had mentioned the other night that he had seen where Greta Gerwig, you know, the lady who did Barbie, Greta was trying to petition to get her name removed entirely from Snow White because she was one of the,
I didn't know that.
She was one of the original writers for Snow White, and the movie had been perverted and morphed into this monstrosity after she initially got involved several years ago. This was before Barbie. The now Gerwig doesn't even want her name attached to this anymore. And honestly, I can't blame her.
Yeah, it's
I mean, would you? Yeah. I mean, it's what a stain. It's like, well, what did you write for this? Nothing. Everything that I did was long on the cutting room floor before this movie came out. Just like these guys, by the way. Remember this from summer of 2023. This picture dropped in the UK Daily Mail. According to Variety, shortly after this article, Disney was to have alleged to have denied this being a legitimate photo, which they then were forced just about 2 or 3 days later to admit to the UK Daily Mail that, yeah, it's legit.
All they had to do was make all those actors little people, and it could have stayed as diverse as it was. But yeah, this looks horrible.
That was the point earlier, Lila, is that they actually cast a little person right there on the bottom right. They actually cast a short actor here to play one of the 7 bandits. Now, coincidentally, there were 7 of them, right?
Oh,
7.
My God.
So, and Disney was trying to say this was intended all along. These actors are actually in the movie. They are in the movie. So this was real. But from every observation I had watching this train wreck, probably somewhere around 75 to 90% of whatever screen time that had been filmed and put in the can was deleted. It was
Wow.
gone because these characters served no purpose. I felt like when I saw them for all of maybe a collective 5 to 10 minutes in the entire 2-hour movie, I felt like they were left in because they had spent so much money filming them, A, and B, they probably had a contract that they were going to appear to some degree or another, and it might have cost them more money to completely cut them from the film. I don't know. But this was forced in. They served no purpose to the story whatsoever. In fact,
wow.
the really funny part was that the dwarf actor in this picture was the only one that actually, I think, had a line, an actual line in the movie that still stayed in. There might have been one other. I think the weirdo in the back in the red
The auntie.
outfit.
He looks like someone's auntie with hard candy in the purse. That's
Yeah.
like the first time I saw it. Like, just,
But
I don't know what's going on there.
I thought
They
he was
were-
sending incendiary postal service messages from Utah or Idaho.
It was one of the weirdest things ever.
To go back to Peter Dinklage, I think what he wanted is, to say that him as an actor, he wants to be hired as a regular person. Like, oh, if you're going to hire someone to be the mailman, just make it a little person. You're going to hire someone to be love interest. You can make them a little person and not make the little person be part of the character. But see, that doesn't work with Snow White when it's a fantasy movie. In fantasy movies, let the characters be mythical. Let them actually be little people, because that is how it was written. I understand what he was trying to say, but he did more damage than he did helping people. And it comes off more selfish than it does come off as in saying that, hey, hire little people. I know of other great actors who are of small stature. And it's like, you couldn't have thrown out some names, Peter. Like, you're going to act like you don't know anybody else. But then maybe he doesn't want to be seen with other little people because he doesn't want to be seen as small. I think he still has some insecurities about it.
And I want to point out that there were 2 little people in this movie, but yet they couldn't hire the 7 dwarfs.
Because
5 more.
again, it's the fact that they want to show that, hey, we're hiring this little person for a role, and it's not because they're little. We're inclusive, but it's like you're ruining the whole. This is a fantasy movie, okay? Yeah. This is part of what makes Disney magical, and you're ruining it. And I already was upset that you took out 7 dwarfs from the name.
Well, they don't even call these character dwarfs in the movie at all. Like, they're never called that.
Yeah,
never.
I have heard the term miners repeated more frequently, like in a mine.
Not the great selection on Disney's part for what to call these things. They also spend too much time trying to defend the fact that the character's name is Dopey. Like, we have to have an entire 15-second spiel about how he's dopey, but he's not dopey. So don't call him a dope. He's not that. No, it's a different dopey.
Yeah, I didn't see it, but I've been briefed on the entire movie, so I didn't have to actually suffer through watching it. But so what they did with Dopey,
you probably heard Despero tell you all about it last night.
Yes, and X-Ray, yeah. But so what they did is they didn't want Dopey to be a dope, right? He's a product of the time, right? That was like, back then it was like the Three Stooges, and he kind of had that type of personality. So she really teaches them how to whistle. They don't even have the whistling in the Whistle While You, or the hi-ho song.
Yeah,
because they don't know.
He teaches them how to whistle.
They're 200 years old, but they don't know how to whistle. And she makes them clean.
Yeah.
Yes. She does nothing. And that was one of the jokes that we made early on. It was like, oh my God, Disney really did not think this through. You have a Hispanic actress that is going to play Snow White, that's going to invade a bunch of white guys' houses, squat in their house, and then when they get home, force them to provide for her. I'm like, they really, really effed this up. I mean, like, Disney did not think this one through one bit.
No, it's silly. They made her way too sassy, because I'll just be nice and say that, right? Like, oh, she's not going to be super sweet and gentle like Snow White. But the thing is, Snow White was a little bit sassy back in the original movie. Like, when she's talking to Grumpy, she's like, you must be grumpy. And she's like, she's got a little bit of sass, but she's still sweet about it.
Yes.
So they could have kept that personality. And even with like it's that part where she has the animals cleaning, I love that as a kid. I thought that was such a like fun scene. And she's like, "You do this, and I'll use the broom." And doesn't she say, "You'll use the broom" in this one to like one of the dwarfs?
Yeah.
So like we're gonna add that in, but
She
not
literally
she
picks up all the tools, Amanda, and she hands them the broom, hands them the dustpan, hands them the dishes to go clean.
You're gonna break into my house. You're not, and she doesn't even make them gooseberry pie. I'm like, you're not gonna make me a pie. Which that was another awesome scene where I thought that was so cool when I was younger. I'm like, I want to learn how to write names with the crust because she does it like writes their names on the pies. So she doesn't make them a pie. She doesn't clean up, and she just sleeps on their bed. I'd be like, get out. Like, no.
There's no charm. There's no charm in this movie. It is sterile corporate garbage. I mean, that's the whole thing. It really, really is. Packing Protons for 5 also think half the money went to removing Zegler's boobs for the film. That looked weird. Like they flattened her like a pancake.
They did. Wait, did they really do something? Because no joke, I turned to Natalie during this movie and I went, "Wow, Rachel Zegler has no boobs."
Hey,
I mean, she doesn't, but they didn't do her any favors. They made it even worse.
In The Little Mermaid from last year, they CGI'd Halle Bailey's body so that she would not have boobs. Like they CGI'd her entire body under her neck so that she would not have boobs. This company is weird. And by the way, if you want to know how terrified they were of the dwarves and of Dopey, folks, I'm going to spoil it. The end of the movie.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Dopey was the narrator of the film the entire time. He's Professor Emeritus Dopey now.
What the hell?
Oh, no, we'll talk about that last scene in a minute with the P. Diddy White party. That was awesome. Like, how bad could this be for Disney to put that up? I mean, it just, Lila, you didn't see that one? Okay.
No, I did. And, I got to tell you what was funny too is when I did my interview with Inside Edition, they asked me, they're like, "So are you going to watch this movie?" And I flat out said, I said, "No, I'm not going to watch a movie that didn't, why would I support them when they didn't support me?" And I think everybody in the room was kind of like shocked at my answer. And I was like, "No, I'm not watching it." Like, why would?
Oh, come on. What's wrong with you? That's Hollywood's attitude now.
And here's another thing too. Rachel, she could have been, if she would have like pushed for them to hire real little people, she could have been hailed as a hero, especially in the little person community. Be like, "Wow, she's really rooting for us." She could have had 7 little dwarves around her that she's like, "These are my friends. They're amazing actors." That's 7 more people on the red carpet. I mean, I just got to tell you, I get a lot of attention as a little person when I'm walking around by myself. Now, when I'm walking around with 7 other bad bitches who are small, we got a whole flock around us. So that could have made this movie even more publicity. People would have watched it, but now it's going to fail, and good. And I'm glad that it's failing. I'm glad that you're giving out spoilers because no one's going to watch this garbage. And we need to send a message to stop making these movies so that they'll wake up and actually write some original good stuff that people want to see. Like, thank you for having these discussions and for everybody in the chat who is speaking of their opinion on these movies, because that's the only way that it's actually going to make a difference is that the money, they need to be hurt financially, and then that's how they'll wake up. It's the only way it works.
The good thing, Lila, with Disney is they seem to be very, very, very adept at self-inflicting financial damage. I just get out of their way and let the fire burn.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.